Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome in. Just getting set up here. We're on TikTok and YouTube. So how is everybody? If you're sticking around, let us know how you are and where you're joining from. Turn this up. Hopefully everybody can hear good. Hello, hello. We're gonna get some sweetgrass, prepare the space. How is everybody? It's been a whole week since we've seen each other on live stream. How have you been? What's new in your world? Last time we were talking about the supermoon. How was it? Any shifts since the moon? My sweetgrass here. I'm just lighting it up. Lighten it up. All right, so just go ahead and take a nice deep breath in and out. And feel the sweet energies coming into your life, into your space, into your time. Oh, thanks, Mystic Chrissy. That was cool. I was like right on time with the sweetgrass. Some magic coming your way. So how is everybody? Don't be shy. Say hello. Tell us where you're joining from, how you're doing. For those of you who are new, I'm SongBirdGrandMother, and I do these weekly lives every Monday, and we talk about different spiritual topics. Hello, Kelly. How are you today? Hey, Rachel. You joined us. How's it going? It's a powerful month. Anybody feeling this power, this energy, this fire? Fire. Hello, too. Hello, April. How are you? How's everything going in Texas? Good. Good. You know, I was just thinking we really didn't have much of a summer here in Colorado because it was raining all of June and July. It's still raining. And it got hot for a little while. But then in Arizona, my other home, it was just like super hot the whole time, which is not uncommon, but it was more hot than usual. Hi, Kara. Oh, Santa Fe. Wow, nice. How's it going down there? That's one of my favorite cities. I love Santa Fe. I don't know. It's probably changed a lot, huh? Is there a lot of building and construction going on? I haven't been since last summer, but I love Santa Fe. I stop by there a lot. Time has just gone by so fast. I know. Where did our time go? That's the thing. That is the thing. The time is going fast, 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 and before we know it, it's already gone. Full moon week was brutal, but now that it's over, it's chilling. That's good. I'm glad it's chilling now. That's where we want it to be, but we have another super moon coming, so prepare well. I'd say the first super full moon really laid the work for, what's to come, what needs clearing in your life, what you need to work on, where you are, the emotions, all the energies, right? Bunker down for sure, yeah. It's going to be a powerful rest of the year, that's for sure. I was just thinking about that in 2025, whoa, I don't know where I'm going now. 2015, the spirit world told me you have to start doing these fire ceremonies because 2020 is going to be a huge shift. And that was the message over and over and over again. These fire ceremonies for 5 years. And when 2020, especially if they told me the equinox, I was like, okay, 2020, the equinox. And yep, sure enough, equinox, global shutdown. World has never been the same. And now we're post-pandemic. And there's a lot of things that have changed in our world. But when I go out into the world, I can see that people are really struggling with these changes. There are some people who just were able to pivot and go with the flow and they were prepared. And then there were other people who just are still not prepared. They're still caught up in, what happened. Is the world going to get back to normal? What am I going to do now? And they haven't really understood the fullness of this shift that we're in, and especially coming next year, as I've talked about a lot with this new fire that's about to come. It is about stepping into your purpose, stepping into why you came here. What is the gift that you were given from the Great Spirit that is now ready to turn on, and you're ready to go for it? And somebody asked, what advice do you have for tomorrow's Lionsgate portal, right? So Lionsgate portal is kind of a, like I would say, like more of a new age phenomenon. It's not anything based in ancient history or astrology or anything. We're working more, I guess, with numerology, but I would say, you're working with a very powerful number of 8, and then that lion of the Leo. So it's about gathering your courage, connecting to that greater sense or purpose. I know a lot of people associate that with that Sirius planet and the planet of the cat energy. And so you have to think about, what is the lion? What is the cat? What is that energy that we have to embody to get that courage? Because right now we have all this fire energy, and it's a perfect time to get into your purpose, to get into your mission, to really sit and think about, what is my next step in my life? How do I take what I have built and make it better or stronger? Or if I'm destroying something in my life, if things are falling apart, if there's things that I need to change, what are the next steps going forward? I always think I'm prepared, but then it comes and I'm like, ooh, okay, all those emojis. Yes, go back to your roots and ground your energy. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yes, listen for your clues and directions. Yeah. And a lot of times, because it is this collective energy that people are, creating through this Lion's Gate. It's a collective energy that now for so many years has really built up. You can tap into that collective energy of where we are and where we're going. So, the best people who are like the most successful in business and entrepreneurship, they tap into the collective consciousness, and they think about, what do people really need at this time? Like, think back to 2020, and if you would have tapped into the collective consciousness and knew toilet paper, like if you knew a year ahead of time, like, wow, toilet paper is going to be the new big thing, and I should create it, I should do something with it, I should like get on it. Think about that. It's the visionaries, it's the people who have these like crazy ideas out of nowhere, that listen to the collective, like listen, and they absorb. And people who like to go people watching and looking at trends and things that people thank you for the key and lock, that people need. And then it sounds crazy, like think about a year before the pandemic, if you would have said, I think I'm going to go into the toilet paper business, people would be like, what, why? What's the purpose of that? I'm going to do this other thing, and I'm going to open a restaurant, which would have been the worst time to open. And so you think about, when you're really tapping into intuition, that's can lead you to your success. That's what entrepreneurship ultimately is. It's the ability to tap into what the needs of society are, and then something from it, because then people need it. And I think that's the part where we need to be going into, is like, what do people need, especially as we go into these economic times, where people are worried and strained and this and that. What are people looking for? And what are you there to provide the collective? Because it's the people who are really going to tap into that collective consciousness that are going to find their wealth. They're going to find their success. They're going to find their service. They're going to open the door, just like that gifted, to what it is that humanity needs at this time. And, healing, entertainment, things that people really want, that, what are you here for? And that's what this new fire is about. That's what I would focus on for this Lion's Gate, is what is my unique roar? And then the next part of the lion is stepping into your courage. What is the courageous action that is needed to take your idea from this little seedling to full grown plant. And that's where we are right now, because next month in the October-ish, we hit that harvest moon. And the harvest moon is when we really start to reap what we've sowed. And we're like, oh yeah, I put this in the ground and now this is coming up. I did this and now this is gonna sprout. And so tonight I wanted to talk about the difference between anxiety versus intuition. And I've been thinking a lot about this because it's something I don't think a lot of people in the spiritual communities really talk about. And it's a Spirit 101 thing, because so many people, I lived in Sedona for 9 years. And what I've seen over and over and over and over again with healers was like this real anxious energy. And the anxious energy, and then how they would combine it with spiritual messages. So their whole life would be in anxiety, but they would get these like intuitive hits, right? But they would never trust those intuitive hits because of the anxiety. And in order to really step into your power, into your gift, into who you came to be, it's about healing and resolving the anxiousness within you, which is trauma-based, survival-based, and intuition is very closely interrelated with that, because a lot of people, when we're children, we have to rely on intuition to survive. And that's how people survive. And people with the best intuition usually had to rely upon that gift, upon that thing in order to survive. But as you get older, the problem with that is that you then like have these two brains. You have the anxiousness and then you have the intuition. And the intuition is stable, but the anxiety is chaos. And so you're constantly like battling those two energies. And that's why when you're really deepening your spiritual practice, you have to focus on silence. That's the whole point of silence. Because when you go into silence and you calm that anxious mind down, you heal those traumas, you remind yourself that that is not who you are. That's a spirit, that's an energy that you needed to survive, but now you're in stability. And meditation gives you that stability. It gives you that common space where you can go into what they call that 0 point, so that you can start to heal that part of you that's always in panic, fight or flight, fear, always like, oh, am I going to be okay? Am I going to make it? And see, another thing about intuition is children, when we grow up in a lot of panic and survival and fear, is that intuition is how you have to survive, because it will tell you who's good for you, who's not good for you. And then you start kind of really assessing people. I don't know if anybody has this, where you really assess people when you meet them. My dad was like that. He would just like look at somebody and he would know yes or no right away, because he had to do that to survive as a child, because he had a lot of trauma in his childhood. And so he would know right away. He would look at somebody and be like, yes or no. And that intuition really served him well. It served him well in his life because he never made a big mistake. But I see for other people that anxiety, it can lead you to instability and mistrust and like always battling yourself. At some point, all that energy becomes a conflict, and then it stops you from going further, from going to the next level. And I think for this Lion's Gate, if you really are practicing and you want to own your courageousness, it's time to really get to the bottom of what is the fear? What am I really afraid of when it comes to my gift? What am I really afraid of when it comes to my truth and what I'm here to offer? And what's the step that's going to bring me closer to that space of truth, of wealth, of communication, of love, of light? Hi, Paul. Welcome. Totally resonates. Oh, hi, Diddy. It makes communicating hard being anxious. Yeah, because when you're constantly anxious and you're constantly worried about what other people are doing and if they're going to hurt you, and you're constantly like assessing people, think of all that energy. Think of how your adrenal glands, you know how we say adrenal gland fatigue and worn out and burnt out, is because part of it is all the mental things that are happening, the anxiety, the fear. And, in our traditions, anxiety is just a spirit. It's a spirit that we actually have to overcome. I now know it has been right. It looked like folks saying they're so great and me knowing they aren't. That's the thing about it. The intuition can come in handy, right? Because you're like, I can see beyond your mask over there, and you ain't all together. And it's especially important in this time and age because of the situation we're in. Like I said earlier, we haven't fully healed from what is going on, what happened to all of us, this trauma that happened in 2020. We haven't even acknowledged really it, and how so many people's lives have changed. Our society has changed. Our world has changed. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of healing. And think about the children who came into this world around that time and what they too are having to heal in. And that's why this is the time of the healer. That's why I focus a lot on healers. That's always been my specialty, is healers, because I always said that there's not enough healers, real healers, legitimate healers, who are going to be the next wave in this new world that we're heading into. In anxiety, ask, is this fear or spirit? Are you still living in fight mode? Can't hear creator. Exactly. And the thing about that, mystic, is that a lot of people don't even know that. They've been so trained to be in the anxiousness and the survival, and the intuition thing is all mixed up together, that they don't even know if it's themselves and the anxiety, or if it's actual intuition. You know what I mean? I used to get so tired when I was in fear, taking naps and no energy. Much better now. Oh, good, Diddy. That's so good. I love hearing that. It's really about self-care, especially when you are a healer, when you're an empath, when you're somebody very sensitive to energy. The most important thing is to have a good self-care, ritual, good self-care routine, not just a one-time thing. Because a lot of times people say, oh, I finally went and got a massage, and it's like one every 10 years. No, go and get those regular massages. Go and get those regular facials. Go and get the treatments that you need in order to be the best fully functioning human you can be. You are so truly amazing at your gifts. Oh, thank you, Mystic. Oh my God, yes, yes. Especially mothers. If you're a mother out there, go get those beauty treatments. Go take care of yourself. Get the massage. Get the foot thing. Get all of it. Don't worry about it. Get it. Because the creator wants you to be happy and I did a video not that long ago about how the divine feminine, I think it's just the feminine, is rising. And we can see it everywhere. The feminine is rising. She's rising. And I don't mean just like gender or sex. I mean the feminine energy. And feminine energy, if you think about it, if you think about a goddess in her power is like, I don't mess with goddess. I'm not going to mess with her, okay? I'm not afraid of her, but I know she has strict boundaries. And she's not going to be like loosey-goosey. And she's going to be strong in her power. And she's going to be, like a warrior. Like, go look at any goddess. Even go look at the Statue of Liberty. Would you go mess with her? Would you mess with the Statue of Liberty? She's standing there with her torch. She's standing there in her power, but she's kind and she stands for justice for all. And she's, she's a power. And that's what the real goddess is. And that's the feminine returning. And she's nurturing, she's kind, she's compassionate, but she's fierce. And that's the energy that's really going to change the world. It's that fierce goddess energy, a woman who is in her power, who knows the direction she's headed in. And it could even be like, in the masculine, their feminine is rising. It doesn't have anything to do with gender or sex, but it's that energy of Mother Earth that is rising within every woman, especially. And there's a lot of transgender. There's a lot of people now embodying that feminine energy, and we're seeing the language change around it. We're seeing a lot of really powerful changes that are needed on our planet. SLA Medical Spa for anyone in Korea, the best Korean facials and massage. Yes, it's so strong. Okay. And I needed someone to tell me that fearlessness wasn't a necessary way to go about it. People are not going to be able to get away with things that they used to. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. Yes, Mama loves lioness. Mama lioness. Yeah, Mama lioness. Think about the mom. You wouldn't mess with that lion. That's the thing, is that as we go into this next chapter, especially in this year, because this year in the Tonopoali and the Aztec calendar, it's about hitting your mark. That's the whole year. And the Aztec calendar goes from March to March. So we still got some time. But if you haven't, do a vision board. Do a vision, and not like those hokey vision boards where you put all kinds of crap on it. Like, oh, I want this car. I want this. If you need a car, put it on there. But I want you to focus more on your goals in life. Like from now to March, what is your mark? If you're a social media creator, what is your mark? What do you want? You want more followers? You want more business leads? You want to launch a product or a service? A lot of entrepreneurs are being born right now, and there's a lot of them in this room. So if you're thinking about stepping out of that 9-to-5 and stepping into your real purpose and mission, then it's a good time to get really clear with what are those steps needed. I know there's a lot of book authors here, a lot of writers, a lot of singers, a lot of actors, a lot of people who, do consultations, digital marketing, you name it. All of that is needed in this new world. This new world. It's a whole new world, like Aladdin said. Yes, I did a vision board this year that's on a wall. It's fun. Oh man, is that for me too? Laugh out loud, Rachel. Yes, that's for you. Speak your goals so your ears constantly hear it. Yes, speak it out loud. Do your affirmations, do your visualizations, but then also take action. Like, listen to your intuition, because like I said, your intuition will be fierce and stable. It'll come in, it'll be clear as a bell. And then if you have a lot of anxiety, the next thing that'll come is, oh, well, I don't know if I can do that, or, oh, you'll wish it away. But when your intuition speaks, listen, go do it, and you won't regret it. My problem is always too many talents, can't pick one. I couldn't identify with that, because when I was in high school, that was my problem. And people always tell you, pick a path, pick a path, pick a path. They always say pick a path, but nobody ever said this was a path. So I struggled for a long, long time, because, shamanism was not a path. So maybe your path is off the track, it's maybe a combination of all the things that you're really good at, and you just have to pull it into your uniqueness. And in this day and age, people do multiple things. You don't have to do just one thing. Do multiple, do them all. Shoot. It's so weird being in a new world. I know. It is. That's nice. Yes. I'm a writer, not published yet. I'll see you guys on the New York Times best-selling list someday soon. So that's your mark, right? That's an amazing mark. I had a friend, she wrote a book, and that was her mark, was to do that. She's, she did pretty good. She said there's a formula to it. It's not easy, but there is a formula to it. And once you get that formula and you just go for it, that's very realistic and very plausible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And when that happens, be sure to tell us and let us know so we can read your book. So ask your guides. They gave you choices. Yeah, hear that. Yeah, one path can lead to another, right? Oh, yeah, that's how it goes. Building your own path, Lola. One path can lead to many paths. there's not just one path. I remember years ago I was in the sociology class, and it was funny because the sociology was sociology of poverty. So the whole class it was an amazing class talking about the history of poverty and why it exists and blah 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 blah. And the professor at that time, this is a long, long time ago, and he told me, you have to have multiple streams. He told our generation, like, you have to have multiple streams. He said, in my generation, we could have one stream and that was good enough. But in this day and age, you got to have multiple. Like, you got to be a realtor, a carpenter, social media influencer. You have to. And now we see that. Like, in this time and age, you really have to have multiple streams. You can't just have all your eggs in one basket. You have to have multiples. A little book to help heal the people on Mother Gaia. Let them know. Oh, I love that song. I feel the same path is Silly String Map. It's like the silly string. Heck yeah, we're rooting for you. Yeah, I just scheduled with Songbird to confirm my path. She knows immediately. It is amazing. Yeah, Nicole was one of those who was truly called. See, that's the thing about your path, is one of the ways you're on your path is when it's like totally mystical in some way. It has this like air of, there's no way I would have thought to do that. Right, Nicole? There's no way I would have ever in my imagination thought that would be my path. That's how you know you're on your path. Is the idea, the inspiration, the person, there's like all these like synchronicities that show up that lead you from this path to another path. Like on the path I was on, I had been training with my teacher and doing this work, but I was on the path to actually becoming a professor. That's what I was gonna do. That was what I was going to school for. That's what I got my master's degree in. I was going to teach religion, like not religion, but philosophy and ancient religion and all that. So I studied all this ancient religion, shamanism, this from an intellectual, viewpoint. But then I also studied with my actual shaman teacher who, led me down that path. But then I never thought that it would all come together like that, to know the intellectual parts, but also to know the actual practice and to pursue it as a path. Because in those days, I never thought this could be something you did. Even though I had these amazing teachers and experiences and everything, I thought you still had to have that like 9-to-5 job. I thought, well, how does that work in a modern society? Because shamanism, yeah, I can see it from the ancient cultural perspective. I can see, how it's relative in my culture. I can see how it's relative in various other ancient cultures. But how does that fit in this modern day? Like, that just didn't make any sense to me. It took a long time for me to rectify that, but it wasn't like I chose it. It was a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual calling. And that's how your path is that one thing leads to another thing, which leads to another thing, but you have to listen to your intuition. And this is why it's so important to heal the anxiety, which is fear, which is panic, which is survival, which is unhealed trauma. It's about really stepping out of, what other people think, what the culture will think, what your parents will think, and stepping into, why did I really come here? What was the whole purpose of me coming here? Hi, Pinky. I heart you. Cool. Love it. It's a clue after clue and a mystery. Exactly. I have to show my Pinky Bee because she's here. She's looking at us like, yes, I'm here, but why? Why? Oh, look, she's looking at YouTube now. She's like, hey, YouTube. Oh, Peaky. See, this little girl came to me out of Signs and Synchronicity, too. I'm going to put her in her bed here. There you go, Peaky. All right. Our ancestors made it a way of life. We were told we couldn't. Guess what? We're back. Yes, we're back. It's true because, you think about, especially if you have native blood, is that the first people who were killed were the medicine people. That is the first people that were killed, were the chiefs of medicine people. And all these years later, there's so many chiefs of medicine people returning. Hello, Sonia. How are you? You know, I was thinking about you today. Are you okay? Everything going good in your world? It lets me travel the world, and I'm not even published yet. Met so many spiritual healers. Oh, that's awesome, Diddy. Yes. Sweet Peace say, it's amazing your path because you're a young shaman. I was usually used to seeing or hearing about older shamans because, like you said, it seems to take years to become one. Yeah, it is. And I started doing readings at 3 years old. I didn't know I was doing readings, but everybody would come to me for advice and stuff, and messages would come in, and people just knew I did it. And then I was hypnotizing my friends at in 5th grade and doing like deeper subconscious stuff. And I was always fascinated with dreams. Like that was my thing because I always had crazy wild dreams. And then around 17, I got into astrology. And astrology made me see the science of it. Like, oh, this is really real. Like, yeah, that's me. And then I started doing astrology charts for people. And then, that became a thing. And then when I was 22, I went to Cancun. And I had a life-changing experience. And then right after that, I met my first teacher. And then I studied for a very long time and went through medicine training. And I, went through this whole process. And so, I started pretty early. And somebody thought I was like 25 today. And I was like, wow, really? Which I'm not. I'm a lot older than that. Okay, let's see. This is a war strategy to take out the leaders. Yep, I was totally hypnotizing my friends. You were too, Pursuit of Peace. That's so funny. Long story, medical and school related. Oh, you were on my mind today, Sonia. I don't know. Like, I was thinking of you, and I was like, gosh, I hope Sonia is okay. I'm going to light a candle for you, okay? And you can email me if you want. Rachel B. Amazing journey. Thanks. But we all have those stories. We all have those things. We all have, like Reed Diddy is talking about writing a book. We all have a book, right? Even you think, oh, my life was mundane. I just this, I just that. No, you have a story to share. You have a message to share. You have wisdom. You have it. It's just stepping into it. And some people's wisdom is sewing. Like for me, I'm not a good sewer. Sometimes somebody asks me, can you sew ribbon dresses? I was like, no, but I know amazing sewers. I know people who can get down with sewing, but that's not my thing, right? Sorry, somebody's messaging me on here. But that's not my thing, right? And then some of you are just like amazing cooks. Like, wow. Like my mom, she can throw down in the kitchen. I'm not that great of a cook. I mean, I could cook, but other people are way better than me, And some people are amazing and talented, singers and poets and writers and creators. But then there's other people who are really organized, and they can organize. And those are the people that we, as creative people, we're like, hey, where's that organizer? Cleaning. Some people are just amazing at cleaning. Like for me, I'll try to clean something, and then my housekeeper will come and clean it, and it's like, wow, how does she do that? And she knows all these little tricks and things. So that's how it is. It's like everybody has something, and we can't compare our something to another something. We have to just be okay and satisfied with what it is that we're given, and then grow it to the next level and take it to the next level and listen to our intuition and really work on clearing the anxiety. I got in trouble playing with my friends at the park. It was a cemetery. I was 3. He missed the kitty. I don't know. You were in a cemetery at 3. I love cemeteries. I know people think that's like morbid or something, but I really like cemeteries. And the reason I like cemeteries is because it's quiet. I used to work near a cemetery, and on my lunch breaks I would go sit at the picnic table and just hang out. And back in those days, I don't know if any of you ever were into the Sylvia Browne books, but I loved Sylvia Browne. Like, I loved her books. I love her Journey of the Soul books. If you've never read them, they're really good. But I remember reading her book, and it was like the first book she ever read, or she ever wrote. It was called like The Adventures of a Psychic or something. And I remember sitting in a cemetery reading that book. And that was what I did on my lunch break. I was like in my early 20s on, on one of those jobs. And I remember thinking, I don't know, I just liked the cemetery, and it was like a psychic book about spiritual stuff. And I don't know, that was just me. I needed the quiet. The dead are very quiet. And they landscape the places really nice, and landscape with flowers. I saw Sylvia Browne in person. She did a reading for my mom. Oh, really? But I've always been but I've always been said, hey everybody, as I drove by them. Yeah, and sometimes I do like the native way where I go, woo. Like, because that when you do that, it's like telling the spirits, like, I'm here, hi. Especially when you go to like really powerful ancient places, you're supposed to do the call so that the spirits know you're here and can acknowledge you. Some love to chat. Yeah, some are chatty. But I don't know, like for me, and the way my gift has always been is, unless I want to communicate, and this is probably because of my training, I'm not butting in. I'm not trying to communicate. If some spirit comes up to me and I don't want to talk, I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. It's like people too. I do that with people too. If somebody comes up to me in some random way, I'm like, no, I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone. That's probably because I lived in New York City. But I think if you want to really, develop yourself, sometimes you just have to have really strong boundaries with not just people, but spirits, with everything. I was talking to my mom the other day, and she was saying, like, she's often heard spirits. She's often heard voices because it runs in our family. Okay. She often hears it, but she said that because her mind is so strong, she doesn't go down the rabbit hole. She's just, okay, whatever. And she moves on with her life. Right. So her intuition is so sharp because she doesn't indulge the distractions that also spirits can be distracting. Spirits are not always like there for our highest good. There are chatty spirits. There are spirits trying to pull you into a whole nother path. There are spirits trying to feed off your energy. There are all kinds of funky spirits out there. And if we just think, oh, that spirit's talking to me, oh, that spirit's talking to me, and we're just going down all these rabbit holes, we'll get confused and lost. And so the best thing to do is know who you're speaking with, know what you're working with, and know the difference between the tricksters and the helpful spirits, the ancestors, and those other spirits. Something someone told me a long time ago that always stuck in my head was that spirit guides can be just as flaky as anybody. They're not all there to help you. There's all kinds of spirits. And that's why sometimes people get possessed by different spirits, because they're too open and they have trauma. And then these spirits, they take over. And spirit possession is a real thing. And it's happening more and more as we go along this 2020 journey. Why is it that when I go to the cemetery, when I get home later on at night through the camera, I can see a lot of orbs in my living room? I tell them I didn't mean to disturb them. I tell them in a strict voice, and they leave. Marlene, what you want to do is, if you're having spiritual activity after you go and you visit spiritual places, before you leave that place, you want to brush off and stomp off the energy, and don't take anything home with you. That means you're sensitive to energy and you're probably too open. After I would do house blessings and clearings, I've had that happen. And then, I did it one time and I came home, everything started falling off my walls. And I was like, oh no, I didn't do something right. And then I started to think about what I didn't do right, and it was the stomping out. And I never had that problem again. So that would be what I would recommend. Great. I just know one of mine's a grump. Stay away from those grumpy spirits. True, it's not all for the highest good. No, they're not all for the highest good. Hello. Hey, Lady J. Yeah, no, they're not all for the highest good. And that's why I always caution my students and clients about mediumship too, because in Korea, and when we're working with dead spirits, mediums, like what you would communicate with mediumship, which is just the first door of spirit, you kind of understand that those spirits are in an in-between space. They haven't fully transitioned. And that's why they're easily accessible. You know how you'll go into a reading and you'll be like, well, I really wanted to communicate with this spirit, but then these other spirits came in. And that's because probably the other spirits that you wanted to communicate with are not easily accessible. They're in a different realm, which requires a different skill set to enter those realms. And so a lot of times with the mediumship readings that you're getting, they're either, they're in the in-between. It's not good or bad, but they're also sometimes not in a good place. And that's the part that shamanism fills in, because you have to know who's in the good place, where they are, and if they need to go. Because sometimes we get so stuck in the grieving process, especially the first year of grief. And that's why in our traditions, the first year is really about letting that person go. And we get rid of everything they owned. Like in the Dene ways, we take everything that person owned and we take it somewhere else. We take it out of the house, we take it everywhere. In fact, there's a lot of superstitions around people dying at home. But the first thing you always want to establish is that letting that person know they're in the spirit world, especially if they died suddenly, unexpectedly, and tragically. You want to make sure they know, because sometimes spirits know. You want to empower their spirit through rituals, through offerings, through ceremony. And the most important thing is through letting them go, grieving, not attaching to them. Because when you start attaching to that spirit, because of the love that you share, they will hold on. They will hold on. They won't go to their next destination. And when you're constantly going to mediums and psychics and you're trying to conjure them up and you're not letting them go. I think it's okay to go once and get that final resolution and get that healing, go to a really reputable person. But after that, it's really now how do I move on from this grief? What do I do going forward? Not trying to bring that person back in, because they have a journey just like you have a journey. And if you don't allow them to go on their journey, then you're actually clogging yourself up and making yourself sick. And I've seen it happen to people over and over and over again, where they don't let go of that grief, and they're constantly, and especially now with these social media apps where you can just go from one medium, and they're doing readings, and you're getting all clogged up. You're getting all confused. You're not able to just move forward in a beautiful and graceful way. And that's why I always really admired the gypsy culture, because just like the Apache culture, the gypsy culture, they would burn. They would literally burn. There's a lot of tribes here in North America too that would burn every possession that person had, even the house that they had, because they knew that they needed to let that person go into the spirit world. And then there were certain doorways that you could do rituals, you could do offerings, you could do ceremony, and you could connect with them. You could ask them to come through. You could communicate with them. but it was only those important doorways. That's what Stonehenge was about. It wasn't about like, let me hold on. And in America, what I think is really kind of messed up, and I hear this all the time, is I want to feel them around me. No, you don't want to feel them around you. Mm-mm. No, that's not the correct way, because when they start coming around you too much, you're going to have a lot of problems and you're open to spiritual possession. I'm Hungarian gypsy. Oh, hi, Lady J. Yes. And that's the different mindset between the indigenous and the ancient and the shamanic versus the modern. Because in the modern ways, people always tell me, well, I want to feel that person. How come I don't feel that person? And I always tell them, it's good you don't feel that person, because that means that that person has moved on to their journey, and they will come back if they need to connect with you. They will come back and give you messages and signs and synchronicities and dreams and songs and different messages. But the hardest thing to do is really to let them go. And that's the healing process. That's the hardest thing, especially that first year. Sometimes it's too painful to feel them around all the time. Yes, and it prolongs the grief. It can cause cancer in your body. It can cause a lot of problems in your body when you are constantly inundated with the spirit world. And that's like an occupational hazard for shamans, because we're constantly inundated. That's why I'm really careful about extraction work. Sometimes it's too painful. Sorry, like Dia de los Muertos, a time for connection, but only once a year. Yeah, exactly. Once a year. Death dates, birth dates, Dia de los Muertos, what do you call it? Halloween is even, that's what that is. There are certain days, equinoxes, solstices, there's certain days you can. Carrying them will for sure run you down. Yeah. Those smells, yeah. The smells that they carry. My family doesn't like it when I don't cry when someone from the family dies. I tell them that there is life after death and they are in a better place without pain. Yeah, they don't like what I say. In general, here in America, probably Canada, I don't know, we don't deal with death. You know what I mean? Like, there's no place for it. And that's why I focus on the altar work so much, because what altar work does is it gives you a time and space for grief, for spirit, for honoring these people. Because once somebody dies, it's not about worshiping them, it's about honoring them. It's like you need that place to honor the dead, because they were so important to us, especially when you lose somebody very close to you. It's such a heartache. Grief is the greatest awakener. And when we don't have a time and space and place for the dead, it can clog up everything in our life. The grieving, it's like somebody dies and you got to be back to work like not even a week later. It's not enough time. It's not enough time to grieve. And that's why in ancient cultures, they always would wear like something to symbolize they were in mourning. So people would know how to treat them too. It'd be like, oh, you're wearing that black hat, you're a widow. Okay. We used to have these traditions too. Or, oh, you're wearing white. Oh, okay, somebody important just died. You're doing these things because you're in grief. People weren't able to go out. Like women, after they lost their husband, they couldn't just go outside and do stuff. They were inside mourning and doing their rituals and grieving, because there was a time and place for grief. But in our modern culture, we don't have a time and place for grief. Some people have to, go back to work a couple hours later. It's really sad. We don't have that. Carrying them will for sure run you down. And zero education about it. Yeah, zero education, because it's a different religion. I guess religion has something to do with that. And even people that I know who are born into shamanic cultures and people who are, raised in these ways, they still don't do it. They don't even know about it. And we see what happens because of it. We see what happens when your lineage goes dry. We see what happens when people stop honoring the dead and their ancestors. It leads to patterns of suffering because there's nobody feeding the spirit world. And the spirit world needs currency just like we need currency. Some get 6 months after birth and 3 days after death. Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point, Mr. Kitty Chrissy. Is that sorry, I don't know why I called you Mr. Kitty. Mr. Chrissy, is that you get all this time for your when you have a baby, which 6 months is really not a lot of time, but at least you get it, right? But you don't get any time for, like, if you lose your mom, your dad, your wife, your husband, your brother, your sister, somebody. A former coworker got fired because he was grieving the loss of his brother and it affected his job. Yeah, I know. I hear it all the time. People don't get the proper time they need to grieve. And then you know what happens, especially in a workplace, is they go crazy. They literally go crazy. And they become so annoying, so frustrating. The work performance goes down. It affects everybody in the workplace. And then everybody in the workplace doesn't know how to deal with it. And instead of saying, hey, I think, you need some help with this. So can I help you? Can I do something for you? Can I hug you? They just ignore it. And they're like, oh, what's wrong with so-and-so? And they start nitpicking and they start making that person feel worse. And they have to do it because they have to survive. They have to make their money. They have to support their family. They have to keep going. But inside, they're dying. And probably most of the time, all they need is a hug and, just to cry it out. People can file for FMLA, but most don't know to do that. That's good to know. Yes, it definitely affects matters. My coworker lost her mom and she's not doing well at all. I know. It's really sad because we don't have a place, and everybody's freaked out about death. It's just like everybody gets freaked out about getting old. We all get freaked out about death too. People, the common thing people say when somebody dies is, oh, let me know if you need anything, and then they disappear. That's the common thing. I feel so bad for him. He was having a tough time with it and they didn't care. Yeah, they don't care. No, not if they haven't been there a year or more. FMLA is very rigid. Well, first of all, I don't even know what an FMLA is. And then, yeah, that would make sense that it would be kind of hard to get and rigid and all these rules and blah, 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 because there's no space for death in our culture. They just don't want to deal with it. I do FMLA for any employee. Just have to come to a few counseling sessions. Oh, that's really nice, Ana Lucia. That's good to know that, good to spread this information because the problem with the time we're living in is there's a lot of death. 2020 and beyond, so many people are leaving our planet right now. And we haven't fully healed from that either. There's a lot of people who have lost somebody. A lot of people. Death has not touched somebody. And that's why you see deities like Santa Muerte, where she's so popular right now, because she deals with death. Okay. Family Medical Leave Act. Oh, okay, good. Family Medical Leave Act. So if anybody in the future, you need that information, look it up. And, just know this stuff because everybody is going to be affected by death in some way, shape, and form in your life. You may be really young and never had death, and you may be really old and have death all around you. Spread the information. You just need a counselor to fill out forms. Clinical psychologist signs off on it. Okay. Well, there's plenty of those around. We were supposed to offer it if we saw an employee struggling. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's good. You're supposed to offer these things. I mean, they're there. But the thing about it is that most people are not prepared for death. That's the thing, is most people are not prepared for death. I used to know a lady, she was a nurse, and she would go through the whole will process, and she used to do these classes and things so people could get their death stuff situated. What is all the medical forms you need to know, end of life stuff and all that stuff. And people would be like, oh, that's so morbid, yuck. And it wasn't a popular thing for people to do. And I asked her, I said, why do you do that? And she was a spiritual healer, right? And I asked her, why do you do that stuff? She used to be a nurse. And she said, because when you free up your death and you figure out your will, your trust fund, your whatever, you free up all this energy for your life. Like you get your life in order by figuring out your death stuff. Figuring out, what do I want? Do I want to be resuscitated after, my heart stops? Who do I want to give my money to, my house to, my whatever? Am I going to have life insurance? What kind of life insurance do I need? Like, when you start going through all that stuff that most people are like, oh yeah, okay, I'm dead. It frees up your life. So you don't have to worry about that stuff, and you're set, because we never know when we're going to go. And then I'm a counselor. I need to reset for work, back and forth, carrying heavy load. I know. When you're a counselor, you need to have somebody who can hold space for you and help you out too. Like I always say, healers need healers. We cannot fear it. Death is part of the second journey. Yes, it sure is. End of life doulas are so amazing to help people. That's the cool thing, is that in this wave of 2020 and beyond, I have seen so many people step into that, end of life doulas. Like, I know a lady now, she's a tarot reader. She's just got through the training to be an end of life doula after her mom passed. And I'm like, wow, look at you go. And her whole energy, her whole vibe, even her whole look changed just as a result of that. Because she was really struggling just doing tarot and Reiki and whatever. But now it's like her life took on this new purpose. And I feel like it's going to lead her to great success and abundance, and like not just physical abundance, but spiritual abundance and mental abundance and emotional abundance and all that stuff. Because it's such a powerful work to be there as someone is dying, and to help the family and all that. It's so needed. Those are angels. Amen. Healers need healers. Yeah, they do. They do. It's so wonderful. They do. Nobody is exempt from healers. Okay. Songbird is the healer's healer. Your teachers are so profound. Oh, thanks, Nicole. Yeah. And that just kind of happened by accident, I guess, because I just naturally attract a lot of healers. And I always say, one of my friends who's a ceremonialist, he always said, space holders need space holders. And I'm like, yeah, because when you're a healer or space holder, a facilitator, a leader, a whatever, you usually don't have that support, because you're there supporting everybody around you. Even grandmothers, mothers, the matriarchs of the family, even the fathers, the grandfathers. You're holding a lot of space for people. You're holding a lot of energy. And when something goes wrong for the person who's holding all that energy, nobody who's around them knows what to do. They don't know what to do. They're like, what do I do? Grandma's falling apart. Mom's falling apart. My boss is falling apart. My this is, everybody doesn't know what to do, because that person is always holding the energy for them versus, that's the thing, is when you're holding a lot of, energy and space and healing for people. And when you need the healing, you'll look around and you'll be like, there's nobody here. There's nobody here. And so over the years of doing this work, I always make sure that I have that support system. That's something that I had to really learn on this path, is that I need the support too. I need to have my, acupuncturist. I need to have someone I talk to. I need to have my coaches, my guides, my advisors, my teachers, my elders. You need those things. Nobody is exempt from that. And then when people tell me if they're healers and I say, who's your support system? Where do you go when you need help? And they say, I don't have anybody. That's a really big red flag for me, because that person is going to have a really hard time in the future. You have to have a support system. your mother, your brother, your sister, your father, your somebody. Because if you don't have that, you're going to fall apart. You're going to fall apart at some point in time, and you're not going to have a way to get out of that hole. How do you gain that support? Oh, you get it. Okay. I think that's probably one of the saddest things about the time we're living in, is that a lot of people don't have support in their life. They don't have elders. They don't have mentors. They have terrible relationships with their families. They don't have the friends. They're very focused on work, but not so focused on community. And in this time we're headed in, that would be the best thing I could recommend for anybody, is to form your community. Even if it's online, if it's in a Facebook group or Instagram or whatever, or if you could have a physical group that you start. If it's not there, start it, because we're going to need that support. Nobody makes it to any level of any success in this life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, without support, without guidance, without help. That's why you need teachers, mentors, coaches, psychics, healers, shamans. You need them all, because whatever one resonates with you. Blessings and love to you all. Meditation is calling me. Oh, okay, great. Thanks for joining us, Mystic Chrissy. Yeah, meditation is calling us all. So is there any questions? I think I'm going to wrap up here soon. But we went all over. I want to go back to our main topic, which was anxiety versus intuition. Okay, and now we're talking about this Lionsgate portal, which a lot of people use this as a time for manifesting, for creation, for connecting to the great beyond. Oh, good evening. Hi, Crispy Ham. Guidance is the second word in my vision board. Oh, isn't that something? Yeah. And part of guidance, and that goes back to the anxiety versus intuition, is clarity. I think that's the one thing most people, when you have a lot of anxiety and dysfunction and chaos and trauma and whatever, is clarity. And if I could offer one thing to go into this Lionsgate with, is what is the direction you want to go? And if you don't know the direction, come up with, a tangible goal. So if you have a financial problem, okay, which I know is very easy in this time and age because of the economy, what is your financial goal? Like from now until March, how much money do you need? Do you want? And, you don't have to know the how yet, because that's your intuition's job. Your intuition will show you the how, but you have to set the goal. So if it's 100,000, if it's 20,000, if it's 50,000, how much money, all of the money? No, don't say all of the money. Be clear. Have a direct, clear goal. Like say you want to pay off your house. Okay. How much do you need to pay off your house? Find out. Go talk to your mortgage or whatever and say, how much do I need? What's the principal on this thing? What's my interest? Go do the numbers. Do the actual numbers. If you're in credit card debt, what is the number that you need to pay off that credit card debt? If you're in student loan debt, what's the number? Like get a tangible number, because then your brain can start like wrapping your head around it. And then your intuition, once you get clear, then your intuition has to provide the direction and the guidance. Okay, well, how am I going to get to this number? Then an idea will pop in. Oh, what if you or job or this? Like the means will come once the clarity is there. And I think a lot of people, they start with these huge goals, like, oh, I just want to be rich. It's too abstract. It's not tangible enough. This is a world of spiritual and material, and you have to have both in order to reach your goal. You have to have the spiritual, which is the opportunity and what they call the magic, the manifestation, but then you also have to have the actual physical discipline to get to that direction, because spirit won't give somebody something and it's all flippy. you you know what I'm talking about in the new age, okay? You know what I'm talking about. Because I lived in Sedona, okay? You know, people come to me all the time and be like, oh, spirit, and they're just, I don't know where they're going. They have no house, they have no money, they're dead broke, and they wonder why their life's a mess. It's because they're too into the spiritual and not embracing the material. We are in a body. This is the material. We're in a body. And unless you want to be like bouncing around, you got to get it together. Okay. Yeah, that's right. They're anxiety versus intuition. I always need clarity or validation. Yeah, the signs and synchronicity. The signs have to be there. I love how you cracked yourself up. I know I do that. And world debt and hunger. Yes, world and Sedona is beautiful. I loved it when I visited. Oh yeah, and no, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. It's just there's a lot of spiritual healers that go there with these very lofty dreams. Sedona makes you work, okay? Sedona is not like a here you go. It's more like a desert, like work your booty off to live. I don't know. I can't really say that because Sedona's always been very good to me. But you know, she makes you work for it. Beautiful blessings. Yeah, because it's extremely expensive to live in Sedona. Housing is very expensive. It's not cheap. It's a beautiful place. Millions of people from all over the world want to live there, and there's not very much housing there. And the housing that is there is drop dead beautiful and very expensive. And so if you want to live in Sedona, you have to work, you have to be radiating with Sedona, because it's just like Hawaii or any of those places that are profoundly beautiful and profoundly powerful, is you have to have a purpose and mission there. You have to have discipline and opportunity. Sedona has to open a door for you to live there. You can't just go there and think you're going to make it. I've seen so many people who were like, ooh, la-di-da, and they're floating around and they have no direction. And the next thing I see, they're just booted out of Sedona. The ones I see who make it year after year after year after year are on point. They're on mission. They're in discipline. They're in action. They're in flow. And they're working with those magical energies. Is it all a spiritual city? I saw lots of card readers, but for vacationers. No, that's the strip. That's what I call it. That's the front street. The real healing is on the back street. You know, the front street is all the tarot and the hokey pokey stuff. But the real healing is like the fire ceremonies I was doing in the back end of my house. That's what I'm talking about. Like all the best healers are not on Front Street. They're there and it's word of mouth and people know where to go for it. But it's where's the back street? It's word of mouth. It's, you know, it's a calling. It's a calling. That's why I always know the people who come to me, they're called. They're called. They're not the ones, because I'm not out there on Front Street. And all the best healers I know in Sedona are not on Front Street, but they're doing their thing and they're very successful at what they do. And they're because they're good. You know, I can't even tell you how many people said, I went through like 10 people to get to you. I'm like, yeah, because you had to go through 10 people to see the real deal. That's how real deals are. They're not, it's like Vegas, you know what I mean? You'll get the word if she does something. Yeah, it's the email list, it's word of mouth, it's stuff. Well, I found you here, so this is the back. Yeah, this is the back street. This is the back street. I never get like huge lives or anything like that. I don't want all that, because the people who come, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and the people who come are the people who are called to come, who are in resonance with that, because there's a lot of filters in order to even get the information. There's a lot of filters that have to go on, and that's what people call like gatekeeping. It's not gatekeeping, it's filters. There's levels, you know what I mean? There's initiations and things that people have to go through before you get to the one that you're meant to get to. And there are many like me, you know, I'm not one. They're so many. But that's a soul thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's beyond time and space and beyond logical reasoning. You know what I mean? You know, but the ones who are like on the front street where everybody sees them and, you know, they're at the beginning. I had a business coach years ago. She was a friend, but she was a business coach too. And she told me, you're just not, you know, in the shallow waters where you should be. And I said, I don't want to be in the shallow waters. People have to swim. Have to swim. And she goes, yeah, that's the problem. I was like, well, I like swimmers. Not a problem for me, you know. But when you want to be like mainstream and you want to like be famous and all that, then you have to be in the shallow waters because most people are in the shallow waters. But if you don't mind people swimming to get to you, then that's what it is. I had a friend in Sedona who told me, you know, there's a lot of people who want to go in the deep end. I was like, no, not really. But the ones who are at the deep end, the ones who swim, are the ones doing something with their life. Because this is a path of self-transformation. It's not a path of being a victim and having somebody do it for you. It's a path of self-transformation. And the people who are on a path of self-transformation are people who are the change makers of society. They're the people who are doing things to make the world better. And that's what I like to work with. Those are the people I work with. You know, they're the people who you may not know their name, you may not see their face, but they're behind the scenes making things happen. Some of them you see their name, some of them you see their face, but most people who actually have the power in our society who are doing good things, you'll never see their face, but you will know their product and you will know their service. It's like Salem. It's performative in the tourist area. The real places aren't theater. Yeah, exactly. The real magic of Salem is grandma's house. You know what I mean? It's going to be those places and spaces where you see generational healers. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. See, there's messages in those movies. There's messages. Just keep swimming. And on that note, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a day, call it a night. I want to thank everybody joining me today. Happy Lionsgate, happy everything going forward. And I hope that, you know, this next week, you make some real progress towards that goal, get some clarity, get some direction, clear the anxiety, and listen to your intuition. All right. Until we meet again, I'll be back next Monday. Many blessings.